Well, so give me an example of like a person you were coaching that exhibited an extreme version of some of these attachment styles, and show me or tell me how that affected them or how they were affected overall.
Well, I had a guy recently that was highly avoidant, and he was around 45, 46, and nice, like amazing guy, super interesting, did, a lot of really interesting things in life, like a very adventurous guy, was military related, did a lot of military related stuff, did a lot of, running and marathoning and, all the sports stuff, and highly like accomplished in his own, right. And which is very typical of avoidance, by the way, right? Because again, they lean into things, they lean into passions, they lean into, and when we initially spoke, again, seemed like super charming, super nice, and, all the things. And then when we started working together, he had a really negative association of women and relationships in general.
A lot of guys do. A lot of guys nowadays do. Yeah.
And he didn't he didn't realize how he was talking a lot of the time, like he would say things like, there are no women who like sports, which is the most ridiculous thing in the world to say, right? Because there are plenty of women that like sports, but he had, because of his avoidance and because of the negative experiences he ended up having with a lot of anxious women, right? Because again, that's like, you fall polarity. A lot of times when you're avoidant, you fall into trap with the anxious and and you get this very negative association. So he, his whole mindset around women, around relationship, was that all relationships end in divorce or misery. All women, don't like sports and don't like the things that I like and don't like the adventure stuff. Like, I jump out of planes. I want somebody who's going to jump out of a plane with me. And I can't find that doesn't exist,
That's very specific.
Well, I'm just saying, like, he was highly adventurous, right? Okay. What is that? What is that? When you are adrenaline junkie. He was an adrenaline junkie. That's what I'm trying to say. So, and he's like, I can never find a woman like that. And it was the best thing that happened was this was in a group, right? And there was another guy in the group, and the other guy, they had a very similar background, like military wise, right? These two guys, and totally from opposite sides of the country, didn't know each other, just kind of came together in my group. And over the course of the group, this second guy revealed that his girlfriend that he was in relationship with and struggling with a little bit was all of the things that this other avoidant guy was saying was impossible. It could never happen. She was an adrenaline junkie. She was jumping out of planes with him. They were like, climbing mountains together and all the things, right? But again, because like I said, you make story and you make justifications out of the ways that you feel, right? But all insecure attachment styles do this, right? And so he made up these stories that there were no women that liked sports. There were no women that liked hiking. There were no women that were going to accept a guy that wants to split the bill, because he was the kind of guy that wants to split the bill. There are no women that, and they're just no, and it doesn't exist and it's not possible, and, all this stuff. And so, and he came to a lot of recognition throughout the program, throughout my group program, that really opens his eyes to how much his mindset was affecting his relationships, or his ability to even have relationships. You
know what I will say though? When people, self-included, right? When people have certain generalizations, right? Sometimes it's a reflection of two things or a combination of two things, right? One of two things or a combination of two things. Sometimes I think people have a unique experience based on where they grew up, the people that they were around, or the things that they allowed in their lives, right? And those experiences will shape their understanding of the rest of the world, because no one's going to have a chance to experience all of the world, right? All you need is a certain sample size that you experience to have like a consensus of like, this is what I think will happen, right? This is, the same reason why people have, prejudice or, racist beliefs or whatever, is because they have like a small sample in the wrong pocket, and then that became their normalcy, right? And then I think what also happens, or what either can happen or what can also happen when that occurs first, is when that becomes like your introduction to whatever topic we're talking about, that also becomes what you see more often, what you pay attention to. You don't notice the alternative even when it's in the same room. You only notice the stuff that you're very sensitive to. It's kind of like you ever bought a car that you never had before, and then all of a sudden you see it all over the road.
Yeah, it's called, it's an actual biological thing. It's called your reticular activating system, right? So
right, yeah.
what you focus on, basically, your mind can only hold so much information, or your conscious mind can only hold so much information.
Yeah.
So it filters, right? And it filters for the things that are affecting you, right?
Yeah.
And it filters also for the things that you're influenced by, that you're looking for, that somebody even said to you, right? So if, like you just said, if you said, look for white Toyotas, I would suddenly see white Toyotas everywhere. Right? But, and so that you're 100% right. Like in his head, what he was doing to himself by repeating that constant, negative speak was making it real.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.